I have a question. So I have on my Minecraft on my homework,
Uh-huh.
there are these 3 questions that I'm not really getting correct out of all of them, and can I go over them with you?
Absolutely. Now, there's multiple ways for you to send me those problems. One is to verbalize them. And if you can verbalize them, that's the simplest way to do it.
Okay, I can verbalize them.
Okay. If, let's say it was a graph, and they were asking you questions about the graph, well, then what you would need to do would be to take a picture with your camera phone and send it to my email address. And then I would bring it up on the screen and we'd both be looking at it.
Okay.
Okay? So,
Yeah.
if you can verbalize them, that makes it simpler. So, let's...
My first problem is 7 plus 3x minus 12x equals 3x plus 1.
7 plus 3x, what's the...
Minus 12x equals 3x plus 1.
What do we need to do here? What's the next step?
We need to get all the x's onto one side and all the numbers onto the other.
Very good. So how do I do that?
I have to subtract 3x.
Okay. Tell me what the next line would be.
It would be 7 minus 12x equals 1.
Okay. The next line?
12x.
Minus 12x.
Yeah, sorry, minus 12x
Don't drop that
equals
negative sign.
-6.
It's a very common...
Equals -6.
Right. That's a very common mistake, is to drop the negative sign. And now...
Then it would be... So the thing was, when I did this, it came out as not a whole number. So the reason why I didn't do it was because I was just wondering if it was not correct or something.
No, this does not come out to be a whole number. What does it come out to be? So we're going to divide both sides by minus 12.
12.
In other words, the last step is always to divide by that coefficient.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And what does that simplify to? What is minus 6 over minus 12?
A half. Negative a half.
Not negative a half. I'm dividing a negative by a negative. So that's always positive.
Okay, because I got 0.50 when I did it. Okay, that's good.
Okay.
Let me write it down.
Okay, cool. You said you had a few problems. You got another one?
Yeah. Yeah.
First of all, let me ask you, do you have a textbook?
No. Not yet, at least.
Okay. Looks like schools are doing away with textbooks. I have not had a student yet that's had a textbook, which is interesting.
Okay. The next one is -9, and then in parentheses, t minus 2. Then equals 4, and then in parentheses, t minus 15.
Okay. What's the first rule of solving equations?
First I have to, what's it called? I have to
Get rid of
simplify.
You have to get rid of parentheses and get rid of...
And so that will be -9t minus 18 equals 4 plus -60.
Hold on. -9t, what's -9 times -2?
Oh, negative 18.
Plus 18.
Oh, that's probably where I went wrong. Equals 4 plus
Equals 4t
60. 4t plus 60 then.
minus 60. In this
Oh,
case,
okay.
you're doing a 4 times a minus 15. So you have a positive times a negative. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
That's why I want to spend more time on A plus math. Because you're just going to not get these until you're more proficient at,
Yeah.
I mean, it's that simple. It's that important. Now, you could have a calculator in front of you, and you could be doing all of this on a calculator, but I actually prefer that you don't have a calculator in front of you for these kind of problems.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, I'm going to say you should always have your calculator in front of you. But I want you to be able to do these manually. If you cannot do these manually, you're in big trouble. Okay?
I don't have my calculator on me even.
Well, that's fine. That's fine. So we'll do these manually. What's the next step after you get to this?
Add 9t and add 9t
Okay.
on both
What's
sides.
the next line?
It is going to be 18 equals 13t minus 60.
And the next line.
Oh, it's going to be 78 equals 13t.
Good. And finally, does 13 go into 78?
Oh.
Now, let me just give you a little tip. When you're looking at a problem like this, most likely it does. Okay? I mean, they're not going to give you something that ends up being 79/13. That's really an odd number. Okay? So the thing to assume here is that it probably does go into it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what might it be? If it goes into it as a whole number, it's either going to be 5, 6, or 7, right?
Uh-huh.
No, are any of those correct?
No.
6. Multiply 6 times 13, you get 78.
Oh.
6 times 3 is 18. Carry the 1. 6 times 1 is 6, plus 1 is 7.
Okay.
Okay?
And
So when you see an answer like this, you kind of know that that is going to go into that evenly, as opposed to the previous problem, which it turned out being 1/2, not a whole number, but it's certainly not 79/13. Okay, so it's not always going to be a whole number. I don't mean to mislead you with that, but a lot of times it's going to be a whole number. What else you got?
10, and then in parentheses, actually, yeah, I have 4. 10, then in parentheses, 2y plus 2, then minus y outside of parentheses, equals 2,
Hold it. Minus y like that?
yeah,
Okay.
and then equals 2, and then in parentheses, 8y minus 8.
First thing to do?
First thing we have to simplify.
Get rid of
That is
parentheses.
Yeah, that is
In
going
other
to
words,
be...
that's the way I would like you to describe it to me. Because
Sorry,
simplification can happen with all kinds of combinations of things. Whereas specific...
Sorry, that's what my teacher wants me to say.
Okay, that's fine. I don't have any problem with that. But for me, when I'm solving an equation, I'm getting rid of denominators and I'm getting rid of parentheses. That's my first 2 steps. If there's exponents, I'm going to get rid of exponents also.
Okay, so then it's going to be 20y plus 20 minus y equals 16y minus 16.
Good. Next line.
Of 3y plus 20 equals negative 16.
Good. And next line.
3y equals negative 36. That's what I got.
Which makes y equal to, again, expect 3 to divide into 36.
Negative 12.
Right.
Yeah, but the thing is, when I plugged this in, I didn't get the correct answer.
What do you mean when you plugged it in?
So I also have to check my solution.
In other words, when you substitute minus 12 for y, you didn't get it to be an equation?
Yeah.
Let's do it. So 10 times 2 times minus 12 plus 2 minus a minus 12. Is that where you made your mistake?
Minus a minus 12 of...
In other words, the biggest mistake made in math is dropping negative signs.
Yeah, I think that's what I made.
Well, let's just see whether this is true. Now, how do I solve that right there that I just wrote? What's the next step?
1 second, did you delete the other thing?
No, I still have the answer down here.
No, I mean my work, because I'm trying to fill it in on my homework.
I did delete it. I can refill it in, but we got our answer. Now let's check it. And once we check it, I'll go back and refill in
Okay.
the stuff that I erased. What's the next step to see whether this is still an equation? In other words, there's no variables there. So the only way that's an equation is if one number equals another number, the same number, right? In other words, if I solve this and I get 6 equals 7, well then I got a mistake. The only way this is an equation is if it is truly an equation. So how do I determine whether that is a true statement or not? If number 1 is true, what do I do?
I have to get rid of the parentheses.
Okay. Work from the inside out. Get rid of the parentheses. What's 2 times minus 12?
Negative 10.
2 times minus 12 is minus...
Oh, times, sorry. Negative 24.
Plus 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can get rid of this parentheses by just combining my two negative signs.
Yeah.
Okay. Well now, let's finish the left side. What's the next thing I have to do?
8 times negative 12 is...
Hold on, where'd you get negative 12 and where'd you get 8?
On the right side. Oh, sorry, I was on the right side.
Well, let's finish the left side. What's minus 24 plus 2?
Minus 24 plus 2, negative 22.
Okay. Times 10?
Times 10 is negative 222.
Negative 220.
20.
When you're multiplying a number by 10, you just add a 0. Okay, plus 12. We still have that plus 12.
Negative 232.
No. What's negative 220 plus 12?
Oh, sorry. Negative 218.
208.
208.
In other words, when you're done doing that calculation, always add those back together to make sure you get 220 or negative 220.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? In other words, that should be a constant step in your math, is whenever you add or subtract or multiply or divide, always be checking. A, B, C, always be checking. Okay? So this is what we got on the left side, minus 208. Let's make sure we get that on the right side. What's the
Okay.
first thing I need to do on the right side?
I have to multiply 8 by negative 12.
Which is?
And that's negative 96.
And what's minus 8?
Negative 104.
And multiply it by 2?
Negative 208.
Perfect. In other words, that solution was correct.
Can we go up and get the thing that you just erased?
Sure. What's the next line?
For this thing, 1 second, sorry.
It's okay. Just a way of practicing. Get rid of the parentheses.
Oh yeah, it's 20y plus 20 negative y equals 16y minus 16.
20y plus 20 minus y.
Y equals 16y minus 16.
Okay. Now when you combine all the y's, what do you get? You can combine all the y's in 2 steps. It's not a single step. In other words, the first step is to take 20y and subtract that y. That's going to give you 19y.
Uh-huh.
And then when you move this 16y over, you get 3y. Now when you're left with that minus 16, and I still have to move that 20 to the right side, so it becomes minus 36. Now you get y equals minus 12.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where it's at. Incidentally, on all of these, when I erased it and you said, can you put it back up there again? You always have the option of going to my digital math tutor and replaying this video. So, and it's the kind of thing where you can pause, fast forward, rewind. In other words, let's say let's say we have an hour session and there's 5 minutes right in the middle that you didn't understand. Well, you can immediately fast forward to that 5-minute segment, watch it, and then be done with it.
Mm-hmm.
So the recording is really quite useful if there are certain parts of our session that you weren't quite sure about. Let's see. No. I'm using this OneNote for one of the first times. They told me my Windows Journal wouldn't work shortly. So I'm not perfect on this OneNote program.
Wait, can we do one more?
Absolutely. I always like it when you bring the problems.
Okay.
Always best.
So this is 2/3. And then in parentheses 3x plus 9 equals negative 2. And then in parentheses 2x plus 6.
2x plus 6. Okay. It's the next line on the left.
Oh, 3/3 or 1, right? No.
Well, hold on. We're multiplying
6/3.
2/3. There you go. 2/3 times 3x. That's the first step.
It's 6/3 x.
Which is?
1/2?
No.
No.
But you're close. What's 6 divided by 3?
2.
That's what 6/3 is.
Yeah. So 2x plus... Oh.
Now you can do this one of two ways. You can multiply numerators and get 18 over
18
3.
over 3.
What does that simplify to?
6.
But notice there's a better way to do it. If I do 2/3 times 9, what if I divide top and bottom by 3? You get 6, and you never had to deal with the number greater than 9, right?
Uh-huh.
In other words, I didn't have to deal with a number as big as 18. So this is the preferred way to always do math, is to reduce if you can. In other words, I can tell that 9 is divisible by 3 and 3 is divisible by 3. So I'm immediately going to reduce that to a 1 and reduce that to a 3, and now I have my answer almost instantly. About on the right side.
It's going to be negative 4x plus negative 12.
Let's not have a plus and a minus next to one another.
Minus 12.
Next step.
1 second. (6x plus 6 equals negative 12).
Next step.
1 second. It's going to be...
Let me give you a tip on tutoring. I think you would be better off if you did not have a pencil and paper in front of you and you were operating off of my screen, telling me what to do next.
Okay,
I
sorry.
just do. There is something about having to verbalize the process that locks it into the brain. And so rather than you doing all your work on paper and reading me the answer, let's just work on this paper that we're looking at here. We're both looking at this. So the next step is to subtract 6 from both sides.
It's going to be 6x equals negative 18.
Yeah, but you see the difference? In one case you did it on your piece of paper, and in the other case you have to tell me how to do that. And they are different. You learn more by verbalizing the method.
Okay.
And so x is equal to what?
Negative 18 divided by 6. Negative 6?
What are we going to do to solve this?
Is it negative 6?
Well, we're going to divide both sides by 6.
Yeah.
What's 18 divided by 6?
6, I think.
3.
No. 3, sorry.
It's okay. The most important thing that I can get you to realize, Logan, is that you have to be proficient at this math. It's impossible to do algebra if you don't know what 18 divided by 6 is almost instantly. I mean, that's something you should know. Okay? So it's 3. Is it plus or minus?
Minus.
Correct. I mean, you can see that when we're solving these equations, there are many, many steps, and every single one of them has very, very small single-digit calculations that have to be done. Okay?
Okay.
So you really have to get proficient at the problems on A+ math. You just do. There's no way around it. I mean, if you had a calculator in front of you, well, then you could do all of these on a calculator, but it would be incredibly slow, and you're going to get really tired really fast of having to do these kind of problems on a calculator. There's just no need. You can do them in your head. I know you can. You have another one?
No, that was it.
Okay, let's go to A+ math. Spend some time on this. Again, I want you to give me the answer, and I want you to give it to me as fast as you can.
-7. 0. Wait, -1. -14. 14. 0. -6. 1. -4. -2.
You're multiplying a number by 9,
-54.
because they have to add to 9, right?
Yeah. No, just 2, sorry. 5. 7. 10. -10.
Okay, you're not bad when I do it, these flashcards. You really aren't. I'm going to change it up a little bit, because this is where you seem to have more problems, is when you're looking at like that.
Mm-hmm.
So let me make some up and give them to you. Like this one.
Oh, so you want me to do that one?
Uh-huh. It's the same as this.
-17.
Yes. In other words, change it to an addition problem. Change the sign. Now you have -7 plus -10. That's -17. But again, it was harder for you. So let's get to a point where you can do these as easily as you can do A+ math.
-4. 40.
Count by 12s.
No, wait, sorry.
First of all, hold on. Let me go back a second.
46.
You said 40.
Sorry, I kind
The
of
last digit have to be?
has to be equal, or it has to be.
Has to be a 6.
Yeah.
In other words, 3 times 2 is 6.
Mm-hmm.
So always check that. In other words, don't ever give an answer like 40 that can't possibly be correct. We know there's a 6 that has to go there. And if you count by 12s, or you can just multiply 12 times 3, and you get 6, 3. What do these digits add to?
Is it -12?
What do those digits add to?
9.
Ah,
So it's not
it's
divisible.
9 minus 9.
No.
In other words, that times that has to equal that. Well, we already know that if you multiply a number by 9, your answer adds, all the digits add to 9. So when we're dividing into a number whose digits add to 9, well, then that's either going to be 9 or that's going to be, either that's 9 or that's 9. I can't seem to write it, but okay, let me think of some others here. Seven times 8. These are the hardest times tables, are your 7s and your 8s and your 6s. The 9s are easy, the 5s are easy.
Oh, it's 56, right? Because 8 times 8 is 64, minus 8 is 56.
Okay. Multiply, count up by 7s for me.
7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42, 49, 56, 63.
Stop. That's what 7 times 1 is going to be. That's what 7 times 2 is going to be. That's what 7 times 3 times 4 times 5 times 6 times 7 times 8 times 9. Somehow, you got to get yourself to memorize these things. In other words, it's one of the few areas that I really can't help you with very easily. There are some things in math where you just have to memorize. And the easiest way to memorize your 7s tables is probably this method here, where you count up by 7s, and then you look at your numbers and you know that 7 times a number is going to be one of these 9 numbers, as long as that number is between 1 and 10. Count 8s. Count by 8s.
8, 16, 24, 32,
Notice they're all even numbers.
40, 48, 50, 46, 56, 64, 72, 80.
Stop. Again, that's 8 times 1, 8 times 2, 8 times 3, 8 times 4. Since 7s, 6s, 7s, and 8s are the ones that give you problems. Let me see about that. What's 4 times 9?
36.
Yeah, the secret when multiplying by 9 is the first digit you write is always one less than that.
Mm-hmm.
The second digit you write has to add to 9.
Yep.
That's all I need to do. So multiplying by 9 is really easy. What's 8 times 9? Using the method I just gave you.
72.
Yeah. So 9s are easy. you don't really have a problem with your 9s tables, but I definitely notice you have a problem with your 6s, 7s, and 8s. So,
Oh, sorry.
just have to memorize it. That's it. I don't know of any easy way to teach it to you. I mean, you can count by 6s. That's kind of one way. Let's try that. Count by 6s.
12, 18, 24,
Notice they're all even numbers.
30, 36, 42.
That's 6 times 7 is 42. Keep going.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
48.
6 times 8. 6 times 9 is what?
52.
Anything by 9, the digits have to add to 9. So it cannot be 52.
Oh.
Those add to 7.
Oh, sorry, 54.
Okay. All right, let's see. Let's go back to A++. I think that's what's holding you back. I really do. I mean, it seems odd to say, but if you could get perfect at this game, you're going to be amazed at how much easier math is. But you have to get perfect at this game. If you don't get perfect at this game, math is going to continue to be a huge struggle for you.
60. 4. Of -7. -18.
Now let's talk about doing this problem.
-96.
Right. But let's just make sure that you know how to do these manually. Okay? In other words, when I'm multiplying, do I want to do this or do I want to do this? Which one's easier to do?
8/12.
Is it this one on the left or this one on the right?
Right.
They both mean
Wait, sorry,
the same
left.
thing. In other words, 12 times 8 is the same as 8 times 12. But which one's easier to do if you had to do it
Left.
manually?
Left.
Correct, because I only have one line. I'm multiplying the 8 times the 2, which is 16, carrying the 1. 8 times 1 is 8, plus the 1 that I carried is that. Notice that if I do it this way, now I do 2 times 8 is 16. Now I got to do 1 times 8. And I got to put it there. Now I got to add the 2 lines. So it's always easier to multiply a number by 1 digit than it is by 2. So whenever you have a choice, always choose this method here. But this is not even one that I would expect you to memorize. I don't expect you to know that 8 times 12 is 96. You don't need to know that. What you need to know is that 8 times 2 is 16, and 8 times 1 is 8. That's all you need to know. You see why?
Uh-huh.
You know, in other words, that's why I go to so much trouble to only do single digit by single digit. Now, they unfortunately include double digits in here, up to 12. And it certainly doesn't hurt you to know that 8 times 12 is 96. That's something you could memorize, but you don't need to know it. You don't need a calculator to come up with that. You can do 8 times 2 and then 8 times 1. See what I'm saying?
Sorry, 0. I mean -1.
Okay, that's a mistake. I've seen you do that before. And what you're doing is you're taking 4 minus 4 to get 0. Well, this is a division problem, so it's got to be -1.
1. -5. 5. 5. Yes, 5.
Okay, now is 5 times 9 45?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. And it's a positive because I have a negative divided by a negative. Okay. But that little test that I just asked you, that's a really important process in the game. It is. In other words, when you're doing division, once you get done, make sure that those two numbers multiply back to what was ever under the dividend there.
-6. 0.
There you go. There's your 0, right?
-12. -12. No. Yeah, -11, sorry.
What's any number multiplied by 10?
Sorry, 10. -10. -18?
No, if it was -10 plus a -8,
Oh.
it would be -18. But put those negative signs together at the bottom.
-2.
Yeah, so you have -10 plus 8, which is -2.
9. 3.
That's a little harder.
12?
I think
-12.
I think it is 12. Yes. I didn't even know that one myself.
-3. 0. 72.
Good. I saw how you even did it. You started with 7, and then you figured out what digit had to add to 9, right?
Yeah. -2.
All right. Let me give you some more equations. Let's practice equations. In fact, hold on a minute. Let's see what their algebra flashcards look like. They don't have them. In other words, they don't have flashcards for algebra stuff. Okay. That's fine. I have some equations that I can give you. The problems you gave me, that's what they're starting you out with?
Yeah.
In other words, you don't have any problems yet that are systems of equations?
No.
I can make up some. I can make up some. Next line.
3x minus 12 equals 14x minus 7.
Next line.
1 second. Negative 12 equals 11x minus 7.
And next line.
Negative 5 equals 11x.
And the last line. What do you have to do to solve for x?
You have to divide 11 by 5, by negative 5.
The opposite, minus 5 divided by 11.
Oh yeah.
Okay? And there's your answer. That can't be simplified because both 5 and 11 are prime numbers, basically. In other words, whenever you have prime numbers dividing one another, you know that it can't be simplified because there can't be anything that's divisible into 5 and also divisible into 11. In fact, the only things divisible into 11, because it's prime, are 11 and 1. And the only thing divisible into 5, because it's prime, are 5 and 1. So it's useful recognizing prime numbers.
Okay, so it's going to be negative 2x plus 8 equals negative 4x.
Hold on. Multiply the 4 times the 9 minus 2.
What? Oh yeah.
You've got to multiply
I
that
did that.
times
It's
that.
gonna be It's gonna be 8. I said that.
Negative 8x. You said minus.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. Plus 40.
Next line.
Six x plus 8 equals 40.
And the next line.
32 equals 32.
And the next line. Let's start with this. That's the easy part.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, can that be simplified?
No, because it's not a...
If you have an even number over an even number, it can always be simplified. Because all even numbers are divisible by 2. So I can definitely divide the top by 2 and the bottom by 2. What's 32? Half of 32, which is what you get when you divide 32 by 2, is you're taking half
16.
of 32. Okay.
16 over 3.
Okay, and now that's simplified. I can no longer divide the bottom by anything other than 3, and 16 is not divisible by 3. So That's my answer. Now, I'm going to change this problem just slightly. If I can figure out how to find my eraser. Now do it.
No. Without the 4?
No, solve this equation. Yeah,
Negative 4x.
4, okay. So what's the left side?
Oh,
In other words, the first thing we want to do is still get rid of the parentheses.
I don't know.
What's the left side? We just did it.
Oh, sorry. Negative 4x
Hold it.
plus
2x
negative 2x plus 8.
Equals?
Negative 2x plus 10.
Correct. I don't need those parentheses. I didn't need them in the first place. A lot of times you'll have parentheses that aren't necessary, but it's real easy to remove them. What's the next line?
Oh, and then it's going to be 8 equals 10.
Is that possible?
It is not possible.
No solution.
So we're going to be calling it false.
Well, we're going to be calling it no solution.
No solution.
In other words, if I give you, there are some equations that don't have solution. And that's one of them. In other words, there is no value for x that makes that true. None. And the reason I know is because when I tried to solve it, I got one number equals a different number, which is impossible. So now let's modify it just slightly. I'm not trying to confuse you here, but I want you to be aware. Now solve this one.
Negative 4x.
Hold on.
Negative 2x, I mean. Plus 8 equals negative 2x plus 8. This is infinite solutions, by the way.
Correct. In other words, it's true for all x. No matter what x is, this statement is true. So some equations you only have one answer for x. Some equations there's no answer for x. And others it's all answers. In other words, the next step here would be to say 8 equals 8. Well, now I have one number equals another number and there's no x in the equation anymore. It disappeared. Well, that means that no matter what x is, this statement is going to be true. That statement right there. And that's the 3 possible solutions you have when you're dealing with equations. You can have one solution, no solutions, or infinitely many. You don't usually get the infinitely many. In other words,
we actually, that was in our homework.
I figured it must be because you came up with it instantly. The answer.
And we did that today. This was the problem that we actually did for it. We have 3 problems and they're all 4. One of them is false, one of them is one solution, and the other one is infinitely many solutions.
Good, good.
So.
Hold on a minute. Let me get my right problem.
Oh, dang it.
It's the best first step here.
Oh, I don't know where to start here.
Yeah, the fractions make it more difficult, right?
I know, but we could normally do it, but...
Oh, I could do it. If I just multiply everything, I get this.
X over 1.
Right? On the left.
Uh-huh.
And on the right, I get 4/9 x minus 8/9. So I haven't really made anything easier because I still have all these fractions. So let's go back a step and see, is there a way we can rid ourselves of denominators in one step?
I don't know.
How about if I multiply both sides by the least common denominator between that and that? What's the least common denominator between those two numbers?
4.
9.
Oh. Oh, yeah.
In other words, it has to be divisible by both
Yeah.
numbers. Okay? Well, how about if I multiply the left side by 9 and the entire right side by 9? Now, what do I get on the left side? And let's work from the outside in this time. Normally with
18 over 3.
Okay, which is what? In other words, at some point, I don't want you to give me an answer, 18 divided by
6
3.
over 1.
I want you to simplify.
6 over 1.
Okay, so that becomes 6x. Hold on a second. Let me back up here. The point I was trying to make here is if we multiply the 9 times the 2/3, that's 6. And I still have x plus 4, like that. In other words, that's what I get when I do the left side. I'm going to do it in 2 steps. What do I get when I do the right side?
You are going to get 1.
Well, not 1, 4. In other words,
4,
this,
oh yeah.
that part of it is 4. Because the 9 goes to 1. In other words, I'm dividing top and bottom by 1, and I get 4. So this is the next step. And notice how advantageous it was to multiply by 9, both sides. I got rid of all my fractions. I got rid of this complicated fraction, and I got rid of that complicated fraction. And I left a very easy problem. So that's why the 2 rules that I tend to follow more than any others when I'm solving equations is get rid of denominators, get rid of parentheses. In other words, the next step would be to get rid of the parentheses. And now we can solve it quite easily. 2x equals minus 32, x equals minus 16. Okay? But notice how much harder it would have been had I not done that first step. In other words, if we go back and we don't notice that, wow, I can get rid of the denominators if I just multiply both sides by 9. If I do this the hard way, then I end up with 2/3 x plus 8/3 equals 4/9 x minus 8/9.
1 second, sorry. Sorry, that was my brother. He just got back.
Now, I could still multiply both sides by 9 and make the problem a lot easier. But at some point, you have to realize I can multiply both sides by 9 and get rid of all my denominators. Turns out that it's actually easier if you do it in the first step, because then I don't have to deal with what's 2/3 times 4, what's 4/9 times 2, all of that.
Yeah.
So if you can get rid of denominators as step 1, do so. Now, if I make that a 7, instead of a 9, like that, now it's a little harder. What do I have to multiply both sides by to get rid of both denominators? It's the common denominator.
7.
21.
Um,
If I told you to add 1/3 and 1/7, you get the common denominator by taking your biggest denominator and counting up until you find a number that's divisible by 3. Well, 14,
2.
21 is divisible by 3. So 21 is my least common denominator.
Mm-hmm.
All right. It's 5 o'clock, I notice. So let's see. Does Bolton use a different computer than you?
Yeah.
Okay, let me call him back. I will talk to you next week, and
Okay.
I will text him the meeting ID right now. It'll be a different meeting ID for him.
Okay. Thanks.
All right. Have a good one.